welcome to this video. As you've just seen, I'm on a beautiful beach, just a small bay. It's quite early morning, it's just approaching 7:30 in the morning. It's a beautiful October day. And so in this video I just want to talk about entrapment and light. Jesus Christ often taught that he was the light of the world, that he came to bring light into the world, and that he also taught that because people hate the light and they prefer their darkness, that they refuse to come to the light lest it exposes their corruption. And so what is light? Like the word, what does light do? Say you're in a dark room and you shine a torch or light a candle. It gives you knowledge, it gives you understanding, it gives you enlightenment of the contents and the structure and the makeup of that room. So it does away with the ignorance you had before when it was in darkness. And so light is actually just spiritual knowledge. And so darkness, when Jesus refers to darkness, he is just referring to ignorance. I'm not talking about light and ignorance in like an academic sense. Academically, my experience, and I think it's quite evident, some of the most educated people intellectually are some of the most people that walk in ignorance when it comes to these spiritual teachings. And that is what Jesus taught as well. He said the high-minded people, the intellectuals, were the ones which would refuse to come to his knowledge, which he was light-bearing. So Jesus came to bring illumination basically to a dark world. And so what do we have knowledge about? What does Jesus give us this light for? What is this knowledge? And I think it's not that complex. It really is just love, really. Light is love, and ignorance is the darkness, which is hate and pride and our egos. So it's just so obviously there's entrapments in this world. There's Satan, the false light bearer, as Jesus calls him, brings confusion into the midst. He brings a wrong understanding of knowledge. And so with our intellectual institutions, our schools, colleges, universities, we live in a world where we're bombarded, especially in this 21st century of the tech age, with so-called knowledge. But this is just diversions, it's distractions. And not only that, the devil also misleads us away from love, away from the truth as Jesus taught it, and he distracts us with political campaigns or protests or conspiracies which may or may not be true, and this misleads us away from the simplicity of the love, the light and the knowledge Jesus taught. And so we've got to be very careful, because these things, if we get sidetracked, leads to bondage, it leads to entrapment, and that's what Satan's goal is. It's to entrap us in this world of ignorance. Jesus taught this. Jesus said this world is the world of ignorance. He taught it in a way where he said, let the dead bury the dead, and I have come to bring life, and I am not from this world, I'm calling you to a different world. So Jesus is just out of this world. His teachings are not from this world. So the knowledge he brings is really just an enlightenment of the understanding of what this world actually is, who we are, and what we are doing here, what our purpose is. So when Jesus comes, when we're filled with his spirit, when we're filled with his light, it does away with our ignorance of this world, and we understand what it truly is, and we start seeing and perceiving things differently than we did before. We see things for what they truly are, rather than what we had been deceived into thinking they were before. It's like the authority, for example, of this world, the governments. The governments are obviously organisations which are human concepts put into action at some point in history, and their domination systems, their oppression systems. The politicians are some of the most greedy and corrupt individuals on this earth, and they're being paid out by mega corporations and banksters, and in the process they're destroying this world. They're strip mining it, and they're just leaving it into a scorched and just basically destroyed earth. And in the process of doing that, they're enslaving us all. All our rights are being taken away in the process. And the only reason this is allowed to happen is because people are deceived into thinking that these authority structures, these governments, are legitimate. They think that some people have a right to make these choices on everyone else's behalf. But this is just pure. This is wrong. This is false. This is the darkness. This is ignorance. People are ignorant of the fact that another truth, another light exists, which is Jesus. And so Jesus is really just calling us from ignorance into the light. He wants us to understand the world that we live in, that these authorities, we don't have to go and vote in a ballot box for change. We don't need to ask some of the most corrupt, destructive individuals on this earth to heal the planet. And I hear so many people, even those that claim to follow Jesus, they constantly go to government, they constantly ask politicians permission to do certain things which they already have the right to do. In some countries, in some states in America, for example, it's illegal to collect rainwater. Or here in the UK, it's illegal to go out and catch a fish without the government's permission. These things should not be so. These things are a result of the ignorance people have walked in. Jesus taught that those that walk in darkness hate the light, and they refuse to come to the light. People hate the knowledge that we are free, independent human beings with a free will, and we should be free upon this earth. We shouldn't have to be dominated by a political structure. But when you talk about to people, when you mention these things to them, they get defensive, they get aggressive, and they cling to the domination structures that are currently in place. And this is darkness, this is ignorance. They hate the knowledge, they hate the truth that they could be free and that they are enslaved to this world, and so they reject the light, and they will continue to walk in their ignorance, they continue to walk in their darkness. And that's exactly why Jesus, the disciples, the prophets that came before, and the prophets that walk on earth today, the people that speak out against the current oppressions and injustices going on, they always come to the same fate, and that is the people that love their ignorance, the people that love the power structures, the domination and oppressive systems of this world, of this age, will kill them. They will persecute the people which speak the light, which walk in the light, because the light threatens their power. It is really just a power struggle, but there ought not to be so. It shouldn't be that way. Just such a beautiful bay I'm in. It's just, in the sea. Hopefully you can hear this video okay. The waves are crashing just behind me. So there's a lot that could be said about this subject, but the main point is just to focus on what the word light actually means. What are the qualities of light? What does light do? When you shine a torch or light a candle, when the sun rises in the morning, what does the light do? It brings information. It brings information to our eyes. It does away with the blindness. Our spiritual blindness is done away with. When we walk in darkness, you can't see. There's things and you stumble over things, you walk into things, you can't see ahead of you because it hasn't been illuminated. We are blind. But when the light comes, when it's shown forth, it gives new information. It enlightens us, and thus we can see, and our blindness is removed, our ignorance is removed. So yeah, think about what light actually is and what darkness actually is, because Jesus, he meant it. It's knowledge, and darkness is ignorance. And I'm not talking about intellectual knowledge here. You don't have to be some intellectually mastermind to grasp these simple concepts. It's humility, and just be willing to allow your pride and your ego and the things you currently hold dear, your belief systems, to be done away with, and when fresh information, when fresh light, when fresh knowledge is revealed to you. And if you allow that to happen, then you will grow in faith, you will grow in love, and you will grow towards God. And thus doing that, you will become a light bearer as Jesus was, and you will bring the kingdom of heaven to earth. So yes, thank you for listening, and I will try and make another video at some point in the future.